Yeah, we're headed to Arizona this weekend. The Gym Click meet is a really prestigious meet there in Arizona. We'd gone, I think, about 10 years ago. They give a dinner for the team on Friday night. It's just a real fun time for the kids, and we're hoping for great weather.
So the conference just handed down an honor to Terrence Jones, and that being his first 200 in 2 years. What went into the week leading up to this race, and what was the trust like knowing that he could perform at his very best?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with him is he came out of indoors healthy, and then didn't have any trouble. And so we've just had really good practices since then, and felt real comfortable with him. I didn't really know what he was going to run, but I know he's really talented. And a 20.05, number one in the world right now. And then Courtney right behind him at 2011. So I think we're first and third in the world right now in those events. But yeah, I just want the kid to stay healthy. He is really talented. And we've just not been able to give him opportunities because of that. And now it seems like right now we really got him healthy and he's everything.
And on that same token, Zach Bradford just keeps breaking record after record. What could possibly be next for him from now until, I guess, the Nationals?
Yeah, what a consistent kid. I don't think we've ever had a pole vaulter so consistent. I think of the 5 meets we had here, he had a personal best, and once he won the Big 12, except the Big 12, and I went like this to him after he won because he had a sore groin, and I wouldn't let him keep jumping. And then we go to Nationals, and he does better too. So, yeah, to open up that big, the first meet, and if you were there, it was a terrible situation because it's supposed to jump 3 hours earlier. They were up there in 100 degrees. So I was real proud of how he handled all the stress and the delays, and the crowd was totally gone when he finished, and it makes a big difference when you got the crowd there.
So what all contingent are you going to Arizona?
Well, we're not taking everybody, but we're taking really all the vaulters, men and women will go, and we're taking all of the throwers, our biggest contingent. We're taking Sam Alves and Kyle Lynn in the jumps, or in the hurdles, I'm sorry. And on the women's side, we're taking Lexi Price. She's going to do hurdling. So we kind of handpick people that didn't get to run at Texas Relays or maybe just had one round. Florida the next week and California are going to be unbelievably tough. So we're going to just train this week with the group that really got worked hard at Texas Relays and run the ones that didn't get worked hard.
You said yesterday Shamar Edgar is he coming back this week?
Shamar is ready to run. He ran 45.5 on the distance medley, and that's the first time we've run him since his little strain here indoors. So we're going to get another good week of training, and then we're going to run him in the 400 in Florida. He'll run the 400 and the 4x4. We're going to try to run a good 4x4, men and women, next week in Florida.
On that, Shamar, as a freshman, what can you say about him being that flexible to be in that many events and performing as consistently as he does as a freshman?
Yeah, he's really special. He ran 45.8 in high school, and we're going to start seeing that, I think. He really ran the first 100 was just kind of cruising, and we told him not to really get on it until he felt on the back stretch. If he felt good, then keep moving. So he did, and but ran 45.5 there. Just really pleased that he's feeling like his old self again. So I think this next month you're going to see a lot of good things out of him.
You talked about Terrence. It was all a matter of just getting him healthy for an extended period of time. Has he progressed any, or was that the only thing? If he got healthy, you knew what you could get out of him, or has he improved at all?
He's a unique kid. I've coached almost 40 years, and I always say this, he's been injured mostly. Last year, he would be injured, and then we would get him back, and we're kind of holding our fingers. We'd go to a meet. He says, I kind of feel okay, and then he'd go run 10-0 in 100 meters. And then the next week, he would be hurting. We couldn't run him again for 3 weeks. And we go to the national meet, and he runs 10-0 again. But I say setting on the shelf. I've never been able to set a kid on the shelf and him come back and be so tremendous as this kid. So we have learned that with him, that if we ever get a chance to train, which we are now, a lot of training and get in some really quality training, then I think you're going to see a whole different level out of this kid. But if he feels something, I'm not that scared to take him out for 2 or 3 weeks till I feel like he can come back and run really fast.
Coach, what are some key things things you're hoping to take away from this meet or keep the athletes chipper?
Yeah, we need to learn to travel. We get spoiled so much with this facility indoors, and we don't travel a whole lot. And I think Texas Relays was organized chaos. It was just unbelievable traffic to delays, a 2-hour late. The meet got behind. Kids are trying to warm up with the high school kids, and they're going the wrong direction. You learn something when you travel. Sleeping in a motel room for 3 days, everything that you have to learn how to travel. And I think this week we're going to work on that better and have an opportunity, but mainly get in good competition. We're going to good weather, Arizona and California and Florida. So we're just trying to really get our regional marks, our Big 12 marks, and have an opportunity to compete against the best.
Any update on Sydney and Ruta?
Sydney is on hold, and I'm really not sure Sydney will compete anymore this year. Ruta is looking great. We'll probably open her up at Baylor. So she's had no setbacks at all. Is that the only two that you mentioned?
Just what you mentioned.
Yeah.
Unless there's somebody else.
I think everybody else is really good. Anna Susanna is healthy, ready to go, but we're just going to take real. She'll jump at California next week, so and then Ruta the next week. So hopefully we're getting them back at the right time.
So on Sydney, obviously she'll still have another year of eligibility for outdoor. What's her indoor eligibility, or was it due to her eligibility?
Who's that?
Sydney. If she doesn't jump,
she would have another year of outdoor. If she, I think, but she does graduate in May, so I'm not sure what her plans will be, but she does graduate in May.
Was this her last indoor season?
Yes.
What's like Courtney and some of those other sprint guys going to do this week?
They're just going to train, yeah. Calvin's going to stay through the week with them, and then he'll fly up to Arizona on Saturday morning. I'll take the team tomorrow. We're going to try to have a really great work week this week with them, and then we'll leave early, of course, next Thursday to head to Florida with them. And they'll run the 100 and the 4x1 and the 4x4. We're going to have a really hard meet, but part of that meet is on Friday night, and most of it then on Saturday. So they'll get to break some of that up.
Did you say, I can't remember, did you say the last year or so that you hadn't normally gone to that Florida meet before?
Yeah, we'd never gone until last year.
So you liked it, I assume, pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, Moad ran 143, and the weather was fabulous. We had Ole Miss and Florida and Alabama and a lot of the teams that LSU, the ones we don't see much, and we just had some really, Terrence ran 10-0. We had some really fabulous performances out there, and when you put good people against good people, man, good things happen.
You talked earlier about the concept of the depth of this team is different than you've had in the past. How has this team in this, been so much different, and how much will that help you in the future?
Yeah, we've just never had this much depth in the sprints on the men's side. We got really good depth on the women jumps. It's more of a veteran team. And so when you put the hurdlers, we have a lot more depth and quality hurdles also on both sides. And I just think that makes a big difference when you can go into a meet and you can dominate or at least score really big in 2 or 3 events. And man, it really makes it hard on the other team.
With that being said, how has having such a veteran team help with the younger players that you do still have?
Yeah, they've been there. It's like this weekend. They were taking the young guys around and said, look, warm-up's going to be horrendous. Just prepare for it. Don't worry about it. We're going to get the best warm-up in. We know how. But Texas Relays doesn't allow you to the nature of it. You don't get to warm up perfectly like you do here. And so that's the way it is at a lot of big meets when there's a lot of crowd and big numbers. So you just have to adapt, and I think it's a learning situation. But I think those guys just led our younger guys through it. So
how did those challenges prepare you for regionals and nationals?
We went there for one reason, and we're going to have the NCAA there. And so we went through the same kind of warm up. It won't be quite as crowded, but the same routine will be there. The same traffic will be there, leaving early from the hotels and that type thing. So we did the whole gamut and ran the whole route this weekend, so we'll be ready in June. Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
So
Coach.
it's a normal hairstyle. What gives?
Normal for now. Usually I reset after every meet, and then probably a day or 2 days before we kind of decide what I want to do. So it's kind of just like last minute decisions.
What have you seen as you transitioned to outdoor? What have you seen in your progressions and as you begin the patterns to hit the numbers that you need to do to qualify for regions and nationals?
Usually my outdoor PR is a lot lower than my indoor PR. So before Texas Relays, it was only 577. So this first outdoor meet, jumping 586, PRing twice actually with 81 and 86 is like kind of crazy to me to open up with an outdoor PR. But I mean, that's a good enough mark for regionals, but I think I'll have to bump it up a little bit higher for that national league.
Breaking record after record, does that seem to phase you at this point? Like, what's going through your mind, like when you see that up on the scoreboard, you set another mark?
It's kind of, I guess it is kind of normal at this point, but I'm looking more towards the NCAA record. That's the one I'm chasing. So school records could be coming weekly every meet, but the one I'm chasing is the big NCAA record.
And after you had one of your vaults, Coach just said that he did like one of these to you. Like, what did you see from your perspective after you did it your last time last weekend?
That was at indoor conference, and I was battling an injury, a groin injury. So I kind of had to pull through that whole meet. I felt it in warm-ups. And after I won the meet, I wanted to take one shot at 580 because I haven't jumped that height in this facility. But he came over and gave me the no-go, and then Coach Slagle said no. The sprints coach said no. So it was nice to know that they had my back and they saw that I had bigger things at nationals, and it was good idea to cut it.
The conditions last week, Wes said that you wound up vaulting like 3 hours later than you're supposed to. It was really hot. I just kind of handle the mental side of Texas Relays.
Yeah, that was the first time. I've been to Texas Relays, I think, 4 or 5 years now. I think that was the first time that I got really back on schedule because they added that elite women's group in between the college and the university men, but they didn't change the schedule at all. So that's what set us back 3 hours. But I just got to the track at a normal time, just kind of chilled out in the shade of the team tent and just waited to warm up. The heat was definitely different. Here, we've had heat, but it wasn't the same as it was in Austin. But it was nice to be outside and jumping in the sun again.
Have you won at Texas Relays before? Finished first?
I finished second, I think, 3 times.
3 times.
I have yet to win the Texas Relays. It might be a curse, but I don't know what it is.
So,
Go ahead, Sean.
so how do you feel like you've prepared so far, and with the groin, always being a little nagging? How do you think you're preparing as the season comes to a quick end?
It's definitely a lot more cautious in the warm-up and the cool-downs, taking care of the body. The trainers here were amazing. I didn't really feel it at all at nationals, so there was a quick turnaround, feeling it at conference and then not feeling it at all at nationals. But definitely just being a little bit more cautious, warming up, stretching properly, and getting the body ready.
How many times have you vaulted in the same competition with, is it Tlemcen, kid from Princeton? And what's that, I don't know if it's right to call it a rivalry or whatever, since you don't see them regularly.
The first time I competed in was the U20 Worlds in Finland. And no, before that it was Texas Relays in high school. And I think I've competed with him against a handful of times. But yeah, there's probably definitely a little bit of a rivalry there. He kind of tends to talk to the officials a lot, get like a 4th attempts, and a lot of times before I go, he'll talk to the officials and I'll be on the runway and he'll ice me for like 10 minutes. So there's definitely a lot of things. I wouldn't say we're the most friendliest on the runway. It's definitely a competition every time that we're in the same meet. So I definitely beat him early years, but he beat me in nationals and he beat me at New Mexico prior to that. So just have to get the revenge in outdoor.
Have you thought about icing him?
I have not. I usually try not to do those things. I just let the jumping do the talking. I don't need to talk to officials or try to get a 4th attempt or just try to be picky with things like that.
I'm sure we've asked you before, but can you just tell us what brought you to Texas Tech? Obviously an All-American at Kansas. What drew you here that you felt like you could progress like you have?
I'd say the biggest thing that drew me here was the team environment. Watching them at conference while I was at Kansas, seeing the team cheer everyone on, staying till a whole like 4x4, and I knew that Kitley was putting together a really good team of transfers, and I wanted to be a part of that. It's definitely being surrounded by great athletes has definitely pushed me this season, and it's going to be really fun outdoors with them.
For you personally, what's the biggest difference in preparing for a meet indoor versus outdoor, and going on weather issues, and what's the biggest difference for you?
I'd say my most opened app on my phone is the weather app. It's probably the only difference outdoors, but seeing the wind is definitely the biggest factor, but it's kind of one of those things that everyone at the meet's going to have the same conditions, so you kind of have to mentally battle it and be tough. And I've definitely, jumping here in practice at Lubbock, it's super windy, and it's definitely helped us to go to these meets where it's not as windy.
Alrighty, thanks, Zach.
Thanks, Zach.